And in this panel, we will have both English and Turkish contributors. As Mr. Julius will be with us, you will be hearing his comments in English, and other panelists will deliver their speeches in Turkish. Firstly, I would like to thank all our speakers for their valuable participation. And my first question is to everyone. Let's start with
Mr. Julius. Let's start with learning about your company first and the activities and, of course, your evaluation of 2024 following a not so good year in 2023. How can you summarize 2024 from your perspective?
Thanks very much, Murat. I think, just reporting a bit from the European or perhaps also from the German perspective, we first of all have to see that we have had in 23 and 24 in 2 consecutive years, we had a minus GDP growth of about 2%. So we had, of course, after the, let's say, the invasion of by Russia of Ukraine, it started actually with an energy crisis, and that means that turned around the whole production scene in Europe. And then also in combination with the European, but also with the German efforts, and particularly the German government, to push the green transformation in Europe, that has basically, well, a doubling effect. Because on the one hand, the costs have increased dramatically. First of all, the energy cost. At the same time, we have perhaps a little bit an exaggeration of the bureaucratic burden. That means we have all kinds of national and European obligations that have been implemented. And basically this squeezed the industry to a point where cost effect, or let's say cost efficiency, was not barely existing. So if you have this, and that means you are turning around a complete calculation, then you have a lacking investment. Then at the same time, we have also with the green transformation, we have the, let's say, the biggest industry, or let's say one of the most important industries for the steel using industry is the automotive industry. We have actually the EVs, that means the electrification of mobility. And that where also a clear political direction was missing, created also another uncertainty. That means we had in the major areas of steel using, which is construction, which is automotive industries, and of course also the manufacturing industries in general. We have seen lacking investments, and this started already in 23, where you could really feel that in terms of construction, we had a stop of new constructions, that means of new residential homes. Then the fear of an increasing unemployment, that means also for other buildings, that means actually non-residentials, it also stopped. Then production manufacturing halls, where you need a lot of cladding and decking, and steel construction, also this actually cut down. And finally, of course, the automotive industry, where buyers simply did not have the confidence anymore what to go for. Mm-hmm. Is it an electric vehicle, or is it actually going back to fossil? That means to the auto engine. So this started already in 23. And in 24, of course, with a crisis that was really, you have at least in Western Europe, many companies had, let's say, as we always saying, they had good flesh on the bones. That means they had capital reserves, they were well established, so they can also survive for a certain period. But then, of course, the question is, where is the horizon and what's coming? And I think that also was then 24, this was the toughest year. We had actually a government which was not acting anymore. We had a government, and you could also see it actually from the political parties' development, and you might have heard also about the right wing, which has more and more developed in Germany. And why has this happened? It has happened because the people simply did not have, they didn't felt understood. So that means they said the government is not talking to us. And you could feel it extremely in the eastern part of Germany. That means also where you have certain manufacturing, and they didn't have the confidence anymore. So by the end of the day, it's one is working with the other. So what's happening then to the steel making and the steel manufacturing industry is that prospects, or let's say forecast about steel usage, went completely into a different direction. That means automotive came down, construction was already down, so that means you had prices actually going down. That means a price decrease, and then by the end of the day, you had a very uncertain steel using industry, stock holding, distribution, and also steel service, who are sitting on material. Then you're always looking at the end of the financial year, and then actually on the stock value that you are keeping, and this caused then feeling the danger of having actually material devaluated to a sharp extent. This is leading actually to no activity. So that is also what we felt then, particularly in the second half year, last year, that the people were decreasing their stocks, using their stocks, and then actually looking towards the end of the year, having a minimum of stock material existing. And again, what was always, and this is perhaps also the difference between earlier crises. I mean, for example, Lehman, COVID, and whatsoever, you always had a reason for the crisis. But then, actually, over the past 2 years, there was no reason. Okay, yes, we had the Ukrainian issue. Yes, okay, but energy side was basically halfway solved. Yes, we had very high energy prices, which is now also tackled by the European Union. But there was no perspective of improvement. And this was, of course, worst case. So this is now slightly changing again, but that's why I think we had 2024 as a result of the earlier years, the turn down that we have experienced.
Thank you very much. Just a quick question. Do you think Germany is close to recession, or?
Well, I mean, a recovery is not done from one day to the other. And again, what is needed is a perspective. So as you know, that the new potential government is now in the final phase of the coalition contract. So there's a lot of hope that the new government has a better understanding for the demands of the industry. And this is the point. And the other point is that Brussels, and as you know, we have a pretty close contact to Brussels, and Brussels is really now listening. So that means a lot of administrative, or let's say bureaucratic demands that have been implemented, or that were actually supposed to be implemented, were actually cut back or postponed. So giving the industry certain breath to recreate and to actually go back. And I think this perspective, I feel that this perspective is now actually changing also the the mood of the industry. We have seen already in the first 2 months of the year that there is a slight recovery of the machinery building and investment parts. So yes, it's coming back. Steel usage is still uncertain, also in view of well, the uncertainties. What is the impact of Trump's tariffs that he's planning to implement, has implemented or not, or whatever? I mean, this is changing daily. So then, of course, also the question of, is it affecting the industries? Is it affecting the steel usage? But let's say, apart from Trump, I think we are returning back on the right track, but it will take some time.
Okay, thank you very much. Evet, diğer panelistlerimize de aynı soruyu yöneltmek istiyorum. Uğur Bey, siz.
Well, I would like to pose the same question to our other panelists as well. So our next guest, Uğur Bey, please introduce yourself and your organization, and how was 2024? So the same question will go to the other panelists as well. So gladly, and I would like to welcome all our participants. I think we do not have Veysel Bey here.
So
Never experienced.
you have never experienced that. I cannot believe how you're gonna suffer from that situation if you had like that interest rate in your economies.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yes.
Yeah, okay. So
So we don't have Veysel Bey here. I had some bad piece of news to him as I was listening to the presentation of our chairman of the Central Bank of the Republic of Turkey. I mean, Veysel Bey, towards the end of his presentation, talked about this 63% impact of export. And I was almost persuaded because he got his phone in his hands and he was seemingly about to send some messages to the authorities. But when the question about the import came up, Fatih Bey was just left in the gray area. He wasn't. I mean, he couldn't be persuaded. So I mean, he couldn't make it sure whether import is high in Turkey or not. So as the steel finance center, I mean, we have been operating in Turkey for more than 25 years. And I think we have a number of differences when compared with others. So galvanized sheet and painted galvanized sheet, these are our main products. And flat sheet, slide and informed sheet. And other than this, again, we use galvanized sheet and produce profiles out of that. So all these profiles could be used in different industries like the construction industry and the automotive industry. We have some industrial solutions. So these are only the two areas where we have specialization. So flat sheet and other than formed sheet, we produce other products for other industries as well. So these two mainly differentiate us from others. We have for about 300 products, and we have the certification of all of them. And we can export them to Europe and to the United States. So these are highly costly certificates, and it was not easy for our company to obtain them. But thanks to our teams and engineers working for us, we were able to complete these certification processes. So again, CBAMs, I mean, in 2016, we had already prioritized CBAMs because in Sweden, Norway, and in Denmark, the French producer, who is active in these countries, came up to us and they wanted to produce for them. But of course, they required this certificate from us, and that was a shock to all of us. But thankfully, through through their guidance, we were able to obtain this EP certificate in 2016. So starting with Typhoon Bey and his teams, and thanks to the raw materials produced by them with low carbon levels, we are able to produce in that level of quality. And in 2017 and in 2018, we had carbon values like 2.5 tons, but we were able to reduce it down to 1.5. And we were able to restructure our way of doing business in this way during those years. As Çolakoğlu, if Turkish manufacturers had not been doing it like this, we wouldn't be able to sell these to Norway, to Sweden, and other countries. Another important issue is logistics, because you need to have very low carbon emission levels. And the land transportation has been minimized, I mean, as much as possible. 2 years ago, we had this startup. A startup in Sweden started to produce green steel with hydrogen. And I very much hope that our suppliers, thanks to the improvements they have had recently, will be able to reduce emission levels much lower. Another important issue regarding us is that we operate with our business partners in 81 provinces in Turkey. We have 52 business partners all around the country. So be it for the local markets or for international markets, we can boast with this MESA quality certificate, and it has a critical role for all of us. Again, UMS has another competence which I would like to talk about. We have very efficient aesthetic and design engineers in our team. I mean, it could be part of a solar panel production. It could be about a construction process at any given level. And these architectural analyses are done by our team members. We have this SteelOrbis center, and we are talking about different products like sheet and solar panels. And I can tell you that we are the only steel producer with this kind of portfolio. Our teams, design engineers and R&D engineers, make things easier for us, because no matter where in the world we can get hold of a product and we can just produce those different products by analyzing them in our facilities, because different products mean different production lines and different mechanisms in your facilities. And another important dimension of our activities is that we collaborate heavily with universities. We receive support from the Middle East Technical University and from Atılım University. And we work on these documentation processes and models. And all these are protected for the next 10 years, which has positioned us in a very advantageous manner in the face of our peers. As you know, part of the revenue we have generated is exempt from tax thanks to this certificate. So let me come back to your question. I don't want to go into as much detail as Alexander, but 2024 has really been a challenging and difficult year. We have talked this over with a number of colleagues during the break. And as MSM Metal, I mean, I can say that we have written losses during the year due to these challenges. High interest rates, Turkey's economic outlook, and this monetary challenges. And of course, one of the most important points is the shrinkage of demand in Europe. We have talked about many things and referred to a number of issues during the morning sessions. But from a European perspective, during the last 10 to 15 years, let's say we are talking about the global economy of 80 to 90 trillion dollars, and the share has been like 10 or 12%, and the present share is 17%. And as it has been announced in the competition declaration, people might ask whether Europe is losing its competitive edge. Europe is an important partner for us because without Europe, it's very difficult for Turkey to continue its position in the global export markets, and that will affect Turkey negatively as well. And if the share enjoyed by Turkey from the global pie is reduced more than 6%, and that will surely pose a threat to all of us. The stakeholders and policymakers are aware of this, and I'm sure that due action will be taken. So, as part of this framework, 2024, as Veysel mentioned in the morning, the Turkish markets have witnessed an increase of 9%. On the other hand, if you look at the underlying reasons, well, after the earthquake, the demand for steel and iron has increased significantly. So this has resulted in growth of the industry by 9%. On the other hand, we need to acknowledge our own country risks and facts. And in terms of profitability, because of the global dynamics, that growth percentage has not been reflected back on to our balance sheets because the depreciation rates are higher than expected in the balance sheets. So this is about the production. Unfortunately, this was not a period during which we were happy, and I'm sure that all the other stakeholders and colleagues agree with me. The decrease of inflation and the indication figures, and in terms of monetary issues, 2024 could be defined as a challenging year during which people were not able to sell or sell for profitable prices. They were not able to reach quality raw materials. And I think this is all I can say about 2024. We have some experiences we have had, but then I'm going to share them later on. Kaan Bey, thank you. Well, thank you for your invitation. Let me talk about our Güzel Group very shortly. So we serve two main industries, and it is comprised of companies processing steel. We have Güzel Boru Company, and it produces welded pipes and tubes. Velsan is the latest facility we have had, and they produce sensitive pipes and profiles for the construction industry. And they supply to many other companies around the world. We have Yücel Group, Yücel Bor Steel Center. It is as old as the other companies, but in later years we have changed our direction. We used to work for traders mostly, but now we are focusing more on end users. Of course, this comes with its challenges, because the materials you sell to traders, well, you use more standard materials, But if you're working with end users, you need to offer different sorts of materials with different quality levels, so you need to design your portfolio accordingly. Therefore, we have worked in these areas and we have taken many steps. In some industries, it's getting more and more challenging and difficult to compete with other players. 2023 was not that bad for us. We were very much in line with our budgets, both in terms of quantity and in terms of profitability. We were all in all in line with our assumptions, but I cannot say the same thing for 2024. I have started my career in this industry in 1990, and I have witnessed numerous crises and shrinkages and challenging times, but every one of them was different from one another. So looking back, when we are going through a new crisis, we always tell ourselves that, well, this one is different from the previous ones, but then all crises affect things in a different way indeed. So I call this the steel crisis. So it has its own peculiarities, of course. In 2024, many companies have restructured themselves, even if not clearly. They have restructured their stocks. They have started selling for shorter terms and lesser terms. We have used different instruments and restructured our stocks. We have focused on our new investments as well, because sometimes big companies invest more during these kinds of crises because they know that things will subside and get normalized sooner or later. As I have just mentioned, my career started in 1990. I have told you this because I've started working for Yücel Group in 2015, and until 2016, the prices were going down in a continuous manner. You might remember that period when we have had many layoffs. And then, as of January, a year later, things started to become rosy again. So we have had a similar price decrease, which translates into a decrease of more than $100. And it's really difficult to follow up with all these dynamics. If you think that your positioning is covering 100,000 tons, you can calculate the impact of these dynamics. So the time was spent to organize all these things. The energy costs and labor costs, they have increased. Foreign currency has not increased. Cost on a dollar basis has increased. So we have spent almost a year, and at the end of the year, the whole steel industry had to close off the period without any significant profits. Some companies declare losses, whereas some others keep their silence. If you would ask like 95 people, they will talk about losses. Three others would talk about wrong calculations, and two others will not be able to digest that fact and talk about it. But we perceive this as a kind of renewal. And we hope that 2025 will be more profitable for all stakeholders concerned. Thank you. So health is the most important issue. Yeah, that's correct.
Selamlıyorum saygıyla.
Thank you so much. And indeed, since 1966, we are actively participating to this sector. We were a very powerful exporter in the very beginning. And we started our manufacturing practice in 1990s. We have started our activities in Black Sea region in order to be close to Erdemir. And unfortunately, we didn't get the expected profit from that investment, and we moved to Istanbul afterwards. Right now, we are in 2 different locations. In Istanbul, one is a steel service center, and the other one is focusing on metal pipeline pipe manufacturing. And one of our center is manufacturing profiles, open profiles, serving for different sectors, automotive, construction, solar systems, and steel shelves, etc. We are in the sector for a while. We have achieved good results in international projects. In addition to this, we have another company working in machinery sector for 15 years. Pipe lines are created there. PDS machineries are used in there. And indeed, tomorrow the fair is starting, so I'd like to invite all of you by taking the opportunity. PDS machinery provides its services 90% to foreign markets. Other than us, there are nearly no other domestic companies. We are like the guinea pig for them. They have great projects, and they are now, the PDS machinery is now creating a specific line, a production line for our needs. There is something that I know for sure about crisis. They always end. So we need to be prepared for this crisis. Final it is, and PDS machinery is now preparing the project for us. We are heading to future. We believe in the sector, we believe in the industry, and because of that, we continue to make our investments. 2023 was not an easy year. 2024 was challenging, but they were all expected. After the initiation phase, as Khan has stated, we should not just evaluate these 2 years separate from the rest of the past, because since 2010 we have seen many volatilities, we have seen many crises. After 2008 financial crisis, after the prices drop to nearly zero, we have seen there was improvement afterwards, after a while. But in 2010, China has started this great movement of exports. The world was not prepared for it. The world was not prepared for the move of China. And now we see China back on export market. They have raw materials, they have half completed products, they have the final products. And wherever there's opportunity, we see they are taking action. The European Union started to slow down because of the procedures, the legislation, etc. In Turkey, there are different challenges. And right now we are going through a phase, and we are being tested somehow. All sectors are experiencing the same thing. In machinery, for example, Even food sector, they are also experiencing some issues. There is this fact of China. The reality is already there, and after the crisis of 2008, they decided that they need to just strengthen their domestic markets. I believe I visited China 2 years ago, and I've always followed the improvements. They have completed everything about infrastructure. They have great superstructure, and right now, even the demand from the domestic market is not sufficient. They have already surpassed the expected, the planned consumption rates, so they can provide their products to abroad as well, while providing a great amount to domestic market. But we will see how it will continue. Thank you so much for your great contributions. Let's start with the second round. By the way, I didn't touch upon the losses that we have made in those years. Thank you. This round, I will ask one question to all our participants, but you may also contribute if you would like to contribute. Khan, let's start with you, if that's okay. A steel service center. What is a steel service center? What are the functions of it? And could you provide us information about the machinery you use in these centers? Thank you. Let me start with Europe. In Europe, a steel service center, there is a margin. 40-50 euro is the cost of operation. But in Turkey, it is not the case. They receive the orders of final user. They just create their positions, plans, and then they deliver on time. Generally, it is not the timing that they earn money, but from the product. However, in Turkey, I believe 40% maximum 40% of the steel service centers have this positioning opportunity. The others always operate on the spot market. I believe $10 is the pricing, while it is 30, 40, 50 US dollars in Europe. And you have your planning, positioning, and if prices go up, then you make profit. If the prices drop, then you lose. This is the case for Turkey. And for the trade quality products, it is quite accessible. You have a great deal of competition. And indeed, the costs differ greatly among these steel service centers when we consider the size of the service. But the competition is high. You need to have all this variety of products available to yourself so you can provide your services. A different companies for commercial products, you need to increase the variety, as I've stated. I mean, it is just like that Blue Ocean book that we have read in our youth. Right now, it is not a blue ocean, it is a bloody ocean that we are going through. It is quite challenging. And when we think about the functions of it, we have we believe that the functions should be different. As Yücel Group, for example, the procurement, investments, marketing are operated from the center, from the headquarters. We have quality post sales support. They are working on the different units, and you have to keep all these teams available, and you need to be in competition with other companies. By the way, the quality is critical, because you are providing your services to the final user. From the scratch, you have to start this controls. You have a great supervision over the production steps, and any fault in your product is problematic. And if there are any after sales, then you have to deliver your services on site for your customer. You cannot leave them without any support, and we deliver our services post-sales support in just one day. You cannot have any delay. You cannot just say, okay, we will be there in 2 days. This is our contract. We always provide the services in just one day. You have to. We can have open profile products. Also, laser cutting machinery should be available for forming. Trapeze machinery should be also available. And while investing, of course, you need to act within your budget. We see for 1,000 ton cutting machinery, you need to have a budget of 2 to 6 million euros nearly. And I think we should be just consider our budget very carefully and make our plans accordingly. Do we have anything to add for this question? I don't know, but let's continue with Mehmet Ali. Khan has touched upon this issue, but why still buyers would like to work with a steel service center? What are the advantages of it? Indeed, we don't have many advantages right now. But for our customers, it is quite beneficial. Customers would like to have this time saving. And they would like to save from their time. They would like to save financially. The steel service centers serve according to your needs. They can just turn your product into something that you desire. They, in terms of sizes, for example, you can adjust it. And the customer always know the standards, and they are sure about the standard of the product. We are working hand in hand with our customers. It is not a spot relation. You build a trust, you understand one another, and after a while, you know their priorities and you act accordingly. For example, there is this need of profiling, or lasers could be added to this for service process, and they are quite valuable. You can adjust them. And steel service centers provide this stock advantage. The customers just transfer the burden of stock to us. We bear the burden of cost of it. And we can also deliver the products according to the orders of our final user. and mainly, they gain an advantage by delegating this specific production to us. And we provide consultancy whenever it is needed. With our technical support, we facilitate the process for our customers whenever they visit us. For example, they have this image in their minds. They have this understanding of coil people. But they don't know what kind of things that we do. They don't know the background of our work. They just think we are coil people. But no, it is not just that. There is this manufacturing process. Our premises are serving for the heavy industry purposes. For example, we have this large, massive goods. Our machinery is also quite wide, and the length is 50 meters nearly. Our production lines are quite wide. So, in general, we can say we are carrying the huge burden of our customers, both in size and both in terms of responsibility. So, still, service centers are carrying this burden, and after a point, they are indispensable for the customers. I believe many companies shape their future plans by considering the indispensable role of steel service centers as well, because we are creating this facilitation in the process, and they make their plans in line with that. Thank you. Dear Mehmet Ali, you said coil people, and I am actually a very old, and I do remember where it comes from. Back in the day, there was this small companies and providing their services, and everywhere they just go there upon call. And the location was called the Thursday Market. Then they moved their centers to a much better location. They started to obtain this warehouses. It was not just providing services on that area. They had this warehouses, and I am a professional. I don't accept this term of coil people. No, we are not just coil people, of course, but the demand shape our activities. It was in the beginning very limited. However, then the customers wanted to add other services to our scope, so we did that. We invested in it. In the beginning of my career, I was just listening. Presentation, they were saying, okay, you will be just cutting the coil, you will be doing this, the coil. It was all coil. However, it was not just this simple. We provide a wide range of services, and yes, as you have stated, demand is quite important. SSC's development, strengthening is quite important for us. And I would like to ask one thing. In Europe, we see these centers are greatly growing and improving. I've worked with European centers as well.
This question is for you now. What are the key factors, factors driving growth in steel service centers market?
I think there's a big differentiation. There's a wide range of steel service centers and also what steel service centers want to do and can do. Let's say in Europe, about 50% of the steel is going through distribution and service center activities. So, and now I'm jumping from Eurometal to Macrometal, which is my company, and we are actually an importing and distribution company. And certainly we are using Steel Service Center for purely spot slitting, cutting, and distribution sales. That's the simple one. But then we are moving, and I think that's the tendency where we are going more into the contractual obligations, where we need more a synchronization, which is basically anyway the obligation of a steel service center and the distribution, that we are synchronizing between the steel making and the steel using. And what we are doing more and more is actually organizing and partnering up with different steel service centers, that we are servicing specific end-using industries within contractual obligations. And this is also now going more into the direction of CO2-reduced steels. That means actually watching, let's say, or monitoring the emissions from the steel making, or even Scope 3 to Scope 1. And that means servicing customers, and which is more and more, of course, coming, despite actually the intermediate stoppages of that development, that our customers, they are having their emission targets they need to fulfill within their products. And then, of course, it comes up that you are developing together with we, of course, as a declarant importer, declarant distributor, together with the Steel Service Center, doing the processing, supplying just in time, that we are organizing a complete value chain and supply chain. So that means that the customer, that we can monitor, actually already starting partially with the qualification of the steel mill, and which we have done already for many years, and then actually bringing the steel within the processed form, and also with tailor-made logistics solutions through the processing to the final customer. And this demands a very, very close cooperation. And this is what we see more and more. That's basically the more sophisticated way of distribution, processing, and supplying the customer in a way that they have a transparent view on what they are getting in terms of qualities. That means also partially not exchangeable qualities. That means homologated, qualified quantities that they are using. Also with, we had this issue of hedging instruments, that you are hedging over a long period for 1 year, and that means within actually the contractual obligations, and particularly if you are actually importing in US dollars, and then having the same euro value over the complete year. So that means this synchronization is the more sophisticated one, and then you're really talking, and we partially also going together with our service center partners to the final end user and saying, this is the package. And that's what we are offering. And again, what is definitely has not changed, despite, I think, the globalization and the forecast. I remember the times that a few years ago when many people mentioned, or let's say emphasized, that trading and distribution is a matter of the past and nobody needs it, everything will be done directly. No, because the final user is focusing on their product, and processing is becoming really sophisticated. I mean, we are talking about also a wide range. I mean, if we are talking about coil business, and we are more talking about coil business in this respect, if you are starting with 0.1 millimeter thickness and going up to 4 millimeters, that's a pretty wide range. So you also need different lines for that. So, and then you have with different qualities like electrical steel, you are handling on a slitting line completely different from actually a galvanized coil. So that means it starts actually with the rolls, it starts actually with the draft, it starts basically how to handle it. It's basically partially also the setup of the line. So that means it's getting more and more sophisticated. For this, you need professionals in the individual steps. You need professionals in logistics. You need professionals in processing, in distribution. It starts with packing. It ends up with the delivery conditions. Just a practical example, where is the wood coming from, that you are using for a strip, for example? So simple things, but it's adding up. And then, of course, under CBAM, it will be a completely different issue, because this is what finally makes also a difference in reducing or optimizing emissions. And then also for the final OEM or the tier one, the user is basically, it will be kind of a competition who is offering the best. And we are actually experiencing this right now also with contracts that we are materializing, that they are putting the suppliers and also the steel service centers and the processor, they are putting them into competition. Okay, I have an EPD here, I have an EPD there. So what is actually the emission deal that you're offering, together with the delivery deal, together with the finance deal? So I think it all interacts. And again, synchronization, I think it's the key word. And this sophistication is also growing, and it will continue to do so.
So I think the technological advancements, R&D, are also key factors, right?
Exactly.
And I assume automotive and manufacturing industries are key for triggering growth by increased demand in those industries. Are there any other industries that could trigger demand for the steel service centers?
I think that by the end of the day, any industry will see a shift in requirements. Of course, it starts with first of all, with the products that are most exposed to the end user. If an end user is buying a car, so that means also the automotive companies, will start again to say, okay, how many emissions are in that car? It starts actually going to the white goods home appliances sector. You're buying a washing machine. Okay, how green is your washing machine? Huh? So, it's a green washing, okay, that's a game now. But it starts basically, it has not reached, for example, a steel can, or let's say a tin mill can. But it will probably go there, so that you have a brand, and in the future also you will see, okay, how green is it? And I think that this is the trend. It was stopped actually with the crisis, but it's coming back. We see it, and also if I see now the ambitions of Brussels, that they are making clearly a USP for the European Union, that the green transformation is going actually down to the final end product, and that this is also creating a USP for Europe. So I think by the end of the day, yes, we will start with the most obvious products, but it will end up with the finished product. And then another point is coming, which is definitely also on the agenda of Brussels, is local content. And local content means also manufactured in Europe. And that means also, again, does not mean actually that the steel needs to be from Europe, but it means that the processing is being done in Europe. And that also has to do with logistics, which are being organized in a very lean way. So with this all together, I think, yes, with new tenders coming up, tenders, public tenders for construction, for offshore, onshore wind farms. This criteria of sustainability of CO2 emission levels, reduction, also reliability in terms of spare parts supplies, etc. This will be a key also in the future.
I was going to ask about the sustainability later, but you have already mentioned a lot about it.
Sorry for the interruption. I have a question to you. So do you compete with your local producers while you are trying to sell your products to your clients? I mean, your local mill producers.
Well, I mean, I think we should not misunderstand. Yes, we are an importer, so we are using imported steel as macrometal, but I think we should not misunderstand what the European Union wants. They want, and also Eurofair, I mean, imports is more than justified. We need a mix also to service the end users right. I think what the misunderstanding is, or what we, and we have discussed that with 700 million tons over capacity, I think we should not misinterpret the issue of import levels reduction, or let's say import controls. It's just actually that we need to have a certain limitation, because a surplus of steel capacities will not help anybody. It will basically, and this is also a key issue here, if we are building up steel making capacities in China, for example, that are taking employment in other regions of the world, that are not anymore supplying, or let's say producing steel. This is something that needs to be avoided. So yes, under the bottom line, a fair competition also with imported steel products is in line with the European Union.
I was wondering, I mean, are you competing with your sources? I mean, let's say you're buying, the steel service centers in Europe are buying, let's say, the coil from ArcelorMittal, and for the, I mean, current needs, for the urgent needs, as a being steel service center, do you compete with also ArcelorMittal that wants to sell its product to the end user also?
Well, funny enough, I mean, competing with, I don't see it actually from that perspective. I see it more from the user's perspective.
I see.
Because the users tell us we would like to have an option. They are buying the majority anyway then from Tata, from Arcelor, from Thyssen, etc. So they just need to have an option. And they want to have, and by the way, I mean, it is also part of the ISO certification of a company to have a security in supplies. So if you have only one or two suppliers, then you are at risk. Your business is at risk. And also your certification is at risk. So that means basically you need a certainty of supplies. So that means the approach is mostly coming, and today more and more, from the user side, even from the OEMs or from the tier side, that they say, we know that you have qualified with this and that product. We want to have an offer for this and that product.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Uğur Bey.
Uğur Bey, let me ask the last question of this round to you. So you are operating abroad as well, and you have rolled out an investment in the US. So which region is the leader in terms of steel service centers, and could you please share your experiences in the States? Well, steel service centers all around the world are offering their services to similar industries like general manufacturing, construction, and steel and iron industries. And we talk about 5 or 6 transactions. Kaan Bey and Mehmet Ali Bey have already talked about these, like metal forming and cutting and welding and, well, processes like this. So they provide their end users with their products through these processes. Looking at the global markets generally, of course, in line with the capacities, Asia Pacific stands out as #1 all around the world. That wouldn't be a wrong piece of information because we're talking about 2.5 billion tons of capacity and a geographical zone with a production of more than 1 billion tons. So we are talking about a very dense structuring in the steel industry, followed by the European industries, European geography. And that is followed by South and North America, and the Middle East should come last in this list in terms of the distribution of steel service centers. As far as the total sizes of these are concerned, we have different sources of information and different reports published all around the world. I have a few reports that I can acknowledge and refer to. Market and Fish Research Report tells us that as end of 2025, the steel service centers will reach a size of like $350 billion dollars of value, and they have also offered a calculation on the distribution of this value. So during the next 10 years, it is estimated that it will increase up to $450 billion. So talking about such a huge amount of budget, $105 billion comes from cutting, 8 comes from slicing, and $65 billion comes from forming. So this is what the report tells us with its analyses. So from looking at these numbers, the steel service centers around the world, well, the number as #1. I think in Turkey it's the same. Like it's cutting comes first, slicing second, and forming comes as #3 in this list. North America is a completely different story. As you have mentioned, we have been operating in the States during the last 3 years. But of course, we have here our guest, and it's not up to you to talk about America, but then we have had a number of experiences. So in terms of automotive industry, North America is highly developed, and the steel industry has a very clearly defined historical perspective. I mean, we are talking about companies in Turkey at the age of 40 or 50. So if you are 40 or 50 years of age as a company in Turkey, this is something good, but this does not apply to the States because companies had been established like in the 1840s and 50s. So we are talking about a longer period of time, and it's a great prestige for these players to have been operating for the last 150 years, if you like. And if you look at, like, for about 50 of these players, we are talking about 10 steel services with a turnover of more than $3 billion. We know about our capacities in Turkey with several tons. I mean, we have a steel service center with a turnover of $6.5 billion. So it's not covering the flat steel only, but many others. And they are servicing in many states in America. And they come up with the $6.5 billion. Net profitability is, if the net profitability is 10%, we are talking about a profit of $650 million. So North America is a very strong market from this perspective. And I think it's because of this reason that many manufacturers around the world, and I think the same thing applies to Europe as well. They are very much willing to sell to America, both in terms of volume, price, and sustainability. And Europe is clearly willing to sell sheets to America. We have different experiences on our side, of course. We can talk about them for hours and hours, but then the only thing I can tell you about the American market is that the trading culture there is very different. When you talk about trade with Americans, they have a very strong mindset. Of course, they have pros and cons, but then the Europeans will have a very strong hold on trade. They don't give much thought about it. There are no hidden agendas, but America is a completely different culture.
Bir pazar.
And unfortunately, we are identified as nationalists. I'm saying unfortunately because when it comes to financial relations, we have a different approach. U.S.-made U.S.-made manufactured products are highlighted all the time, for example. But we have listening since the beginning of the day. We are following the world trends, and as a person, I always closely follow all the improvements, but we do not reflect all these trends in our market. We are somehow lagging behind sometimes, and indeed, for the pricing, some foreign suppliers provide better pricing, and there is another reality. They do prefer, of course, better prices, and export is the 60% of the total production. And right now we have a good flat steel capacity. Do we have to export it, import it? Yes, if it is not manufactured in Turkey, then we have to. But in US, for example, they say, I want to have US steel. Whatever the price is, they do opt their own products. I mean, I've joined the fair, and during the fairs, for example, whenever there is a trader visiting a booth, visiting our booth, they checked our certification, and they said, okay, this certification is great, the documents are great. They hear about the price, and they had this weird look on their face, and I've asked, why are you just seeing this weird face? And he told me, okay, after all these standards, after all these good features of your product, the price is incredible. It is much lower than their expectation. Because they were, he was expecting a Chinese, made in China product, because they've already engaged Chinese products with lower pricing. This is their mindset. If it is cheaper, then it has lower quality. But the Americans, they question, where do you obtain the product? What are your standards, etc. They have good knowledge. They have loyalty to their own suppliers. For example, they say, for 30 years we are doing business with this and this company, and they can just create a barrier in front of you in order to support their loyal companies. They have this mindset. I believe you will agree with me, the ones who are trying to create a network in the United States, they have already experienced these challenges. In US, for example, you may see Japanese people. Japanese are never in the front rows. They are always in the background. For example, they've just overtook the companies. They didn't establish in the beginning. I'm talking about the companies in the US, by the way. They did, and recently, for American safety, they have decided to take certain measures. In Biden time, Nippon is now providing an offer, and they will be investing in the United States after changing mindset. This shows us the understanding of America. Rather than starting from scratch, the general trend is to overtake a company, and Turkish people have this great technology. In certain areas, we have better technology than United States for banking purposes. For example, our banking system is great, and we are far more superior in terms of technology used in banking comparing to the United States. After the banking crisis that we have experienced in the beginning of 2000s, we had this great transformation in this sector, and the banks are already investing a great deal to their technologies. In the United States, for example, it is now completely different. While the United States completed their development in certain areas, while we are trying to deal with the geopolitical issues in Turkey. In Los Angeles, for example, there was a major fire in a factory in our sector, and then they've decided to change the superstructure. They moved the power transmission lines to underground. They've completed that, I believe, many decades before us. Yes, the situation is different. And lastly, for a U.S. company, sustainability is quite important. You have to have continuity in your activities. They are not just looking for a one-time opportunity. They would like to have a long-term agreement. Thank you so much for your contributions. I have one question. 6.5 billion dollars income. It is not in spot market, right? I mean, they are in. They have a completely different financial gain when comparing to us. A tremendous difference. And yes, you have stated that they have this loyal to their suppliers and to trade relations that they have. They don't want to go after a one-time opportunity. But in Turkey, for example, if there's even a $5 difference, they change their supplier. They just leave them at that moment without hesitation. I mean, it is really difficult. Once I've experienced something like that, I said it was just $10, and they told me even $1 would be sufficient to change my supplier. They can just give up on us for $1, for a dime. I mean, in order to continue our activities in Turkey, people are ready to go through this bloody ocean. We are ready to swim in it because the circumstances are quite challenging. I wish I was in the United States and I was in steel market. Even when we first started in our activities in the US, It was $450 in China. It is $250 in Turkey. In US, it is $950. I was like, oh my goodness! How come we can have such prices? It was like heaven. And but I need to highlight this: if you follow the producers, manufacturers path in the United States, then the pricing will not be different. The high cost in manufacturing. And surely there are certain incentives by the state, but the manufacturers are working with high cost as well. We cannot disregard that. The margins of profit could be calculated, and I believe they have the biggest margins. Of course. We have 2 more rounds, but we have really short time. So let's wrap it up quickly. Mehmet Ali, what are the challenges that you are facing as steel service centers? I mean, the volatility in raw material prices. If you don't have contract, if you don't have this long-term contract, then you will be facing difficult challenges. You need to have a sound, a strong stock management. As Alexander has stated, synchronization is our job. You have to adjust your stocks with the needs because storing has certain cost. There is an operational cost that you need to bear in mind while managing your company. You have this competition as well. You need qualified personnel. It takes nearly 6 months to 12 months for a person to get used to our activities. To make them qualified, you have to spend nearly a year. There could be you have to prepare your plans because there could be delays in manufacturing process, for example, or in transport. There was a problem and it caused a delay, so it creates risks. Then again, and as time goes by, the sophistication level of our procedures are increasing. Regulations are also pushing us to catch up with them. All the time you have to follow the developments. You have to continue investing in your job in order to catch the status quo. And even further, you need to be in the forefront for competition. Thank you so much. Thank you.
It would be for you, Alexander. I said I was going to ask about sustainability issue for the steel service centers, the importance of sustainability, but you have already mentioned a little bit about. Let me add another question. What do you think about steel producers opening steel service centers and serving the end users?
Sensitive subject.
Speculate.
I think the vertical integration, or let's say the facilities that, and particularly, I mean, Jabian was mentioning this. Tata has the ones, Thyssen have the ones, Arcelor, they have Salzgitter. They have all integrated steel service centers, and they are not necessarily. I mean, they have certain advantages and disadvantages. Let's put it this way. And I think we have seen already disadvantages with, let's say, just actually looking at Arcelor's experiences now last year and this year, with where they were just forced to close down steel service centers. So I think it's not easy. I think again there are advantages and disadvantages on both sides. Of course, the independent ones have also big advantages. Advantages are that they are free actually with, let's say, they are having contracts mostly with various mills, partially the integrated ones also, but it's more that they have actually more, they can create more their own strategy, how to, let's say, make customers happy. And at the same time, it is also very much, again, the end user's perspective. What do they want? And certainly, if you want to secure a certain independent and more secure supplies, then you're also making your arrangement with actually the line that you are considering most secure for your business. Some people, for example, it's always one of the examples that strike my mind, that ArcelorMittal is offering products only actually marketed through their own steel service centers, specific products. They are not making it available to others, not even to other integrated steel service centers. So that means regardless of. It's their brand, it's their product, they are not making it available. So I think the users, and that's my experience also now over the past years, our users have become so sophisticated with their decision, what they want, that they are also, that it belongs also to their strategic thoughts and direction, from whom do they want to buy what. And then, of course, and then again, it comes to the point of USP. Every steel service center needs to create their own USPs. That means, do they want to focus actually on one or two locations, or do they actually want to spread actually into various locations? You know, for certain businesses, like for example in the building component businesses, there was an old rule of 400 kilometers. That means a certain distance that is actually the maximum to reach out. So then certain others are saying, no, we are centralizing. There are also service center groups there who are centralizing actually everything in one or two locations. So I think there is not really a recipe. I think the USP, or the individual recipes, also the individual markets that want to be serviced, and also going into what products, and we were talking about, it's not only slitting and cutting, but it's also about forming. So how deep they want to go into the value chain, how close do they want to go to get into for example, to the OEM or to the tier one? How much integration is there? This is very individual, and which is basically very positive for the market, because certain keep to their old recipe that they have been practicing for 30 years, and some others, they see a direction, they see a perspective, and they see also a technical development, and say, now I'm off. And say, okay, this is actually where we want to go. So this is so nice about the business. There's a wide range of how to positioning yourself, which counts for integrated and non-integrated.
Thank you very much. Uğur Bey.
Or the next question will be for you. What are the new trends in steel service centers sector? Thank you, but we have limited time, so let me give you general information. Among the main trends, digitalization is, of course, a hot topic. I think we may need to change the microphone. I believe we have already talked too much, so I just used all my battery, and my mic is not working. As I've stated, digital transformation industry 4.0. This is a hot topic, and Europe has nearly completed the process. United States is in a very good place, and they have developed technologies even 5-6 years ago. There was this procurement follow-up technology in real time. And in the last 2 years, we had certain improvements in Turkey as well. Majority of the main producers, as we have seen in the morning, they have this smart customer software. For example, you can just place your order and you can have the follow-up of it through that. Yes, the world is heading to a new direction, and we are trying to adapt ourselves. And obviously, there is this now dynamic pricing. Customers would like to see the quality, the width, the height of the product when they connect with it, and they can just see the pricing with all these specifications. And now our goal is to incorporate all this in our process. While they are observing the pricing, we would like to track the behavior. We would like to analyze when they see the price, what kind of decision they will take. We would like to evaluate our sales in line with this, and we will be benefiting from AI in the meantime. Hopefully, we will just incorporate it, and our pricing module is ready for that.
Sustainability is another important issue. The cyber certification process, which has been initiated in Europe, will create a difference amongst these steel service centers. But during the last 6 periods, the CBAP report can be issued from our systems automatically, and we do our reporting. So in the beginning, the existing values were utilized, and then we were able to do our own calculations. Alexander would know it better, but I think by 2027, the certification process of CBAP will be postponed to 2027. So that means we might have a year of advantage for another year. But for Turkish steel producers, I think they have invested in this area. Of course, this strengthens our hand, and their contributions are very important. And lastly, this is another of the trends we have. We are no longer selling products and services. We are trying to intervene as much as possible. If you look at the services provided by these centers, there is a certain volume, there is a demand and capacity and clients, but at the end of the day, unfortunately, we cannot talk about a high added value. You are either forming the product or rolling it. As Emre and Kaan Beys have already mentioned, once you consider the financial aids and other processes and the client's demands, and when you are able to deliver fast, you find yourself functioning as a steel service center, actually. So I had asked this question to Alexander from this perspective. Unfortunately, we have to compete with the main producers. The RNG market is a more mature market. Çolakoğlu today, for example, would not be interested in spots because they are talking about the capacity which would be valid 3 months later. And so you are both a customer and a competitor. So they are our supplier and competitor at the same time. In rising markets, this is not an issue, but for markets which are down, this is rather critical. So I think Turkey could be differentiated from that perspective. For a fast delivery, these players need to compete with one another. I think this is the general trend. Thank you.
Addition, because I don't know if the translation was right, but as a matter of fact, you have to consider CBAM already as of the 1st of January 2026, not 27. Because in 2027, as of 1st of January, you have to report back, or let's say the importer has to pay for all, let's say 2.5% of the total emissions that were imported in 2026. So that
Any delay?
we fixed it. We were actually last week in Brussels, so we know how it's going to work. So they fixed that. So that means basically that as of the 1st of January 2027, you will be able to get access to the portal where you are buying the certificates, and based actually on the import declarations that you made, that means on the emissions that you imported into Europe as of the 1st of January 2026, you need to buy 2.5% of those emissions you need to buy the certificates for. I mean, we as declarant, we will be obliged to do so. So this is fixed. Okay. Sorry for this disappointment.
We're ready for that. Don't worry about that. But I mean, as a country, also we get to be ready.
Yeah.
I don't think so. We are going to lose time for be ready for the CBAM mechanism, but we'll see anyway. As a country, we are ready. Don't worry about it.
I know.
Thank you. Teşekkürler. Evet.
Well, thank you. Kaan Bey, let me ask you, please, a very quick answer. Which industries contribute the most for service centers? I know my time is limited, but let me share an anecdote as how the technology has evolved. So we are going through a transition process with CBAMs, and it was the end of 1990s. Dear Serhat Güngör was here, and he was my assistant. Then we didn't have these technologies and information technologies at the time. So you might remember those days when the screens were black and the letters were green, and we were reading our stocks like 0.80, 1009, 1600. So there was this telephone, and Serhat was reading, and he was checking the list. And I was talking to this ex-client, and I told him, "You are being called." And he didn't remember where he was at the list. So the systems have evolved dramatically. It was rather challenging to work with those previous systems. So where comes the greatest contribution? The automotive industry, white goods industry, machinery industries offer the greatest contribution to us. Of course, on a sectoral basis, on an industrial basis, the end user and trades are differentiated. We offer our services to traders as well. They use more standard sizes. And in order to be able to offer them higher quality services and products, we try to support them because we do not have a sustainable competition. Competition is rather rigid and fiery. on the one hand, you might have stormy waters, whereas on the other hand, you might have calmer waters. You need to have this variety of materials. But on the trader side, we have our incentives because we stock them anyhow, and we want to open a door for them. On the end user side, I have listed these main industries, and it's challenging to offer your services to these respective industries. You need to be very precise and sensitive. So these few industries are coming first. The construction industry might be counted in as well. Mehmet Ali Bey has mentioned a number of industries. Solar energy industry, well, it is sometimes faster, sometimes slower, depending on the subsidies and support. So my time is limited, I know, so let me stop here. Machinery, white goods, okay. Let's go into our last round about your expectations. What do you expect for this year? Demand, well, the beginning of the year has not started as expected in terms of demand. Together with these tax tariffs, I can't tell this in 2 minutes. I can't summarize it in 2 sentences, and I'm sorry, I can't do this. I won't be able to summarize it. But generally speaking, there was this meaningful statement about scraps in the previous presentation. So consumption is increasing, prices are rising. And I think in ARC, when we were talking about $600, there was this comment like we wouldn't be able to talk about it again. But this is the steel industry. In the 2000s, it was like $100 and $150. You remember Lehman Brothers with the Ukrainian war, it's $1,200. So we are talking about a rather volatile industry, and it's rather difficult to manage it. And people are able to protect their positions because the industry is in need of this experience. We think that we know everything, but then every single day brings in novelties together with the cost pressure. Things are even more difficult. Frankly speaking, I supported Trump in the beginning. I thought that he would prove fruitful for the markets. And my expectations have not changed drastically because Trump policies could be a title for some negotiations, but at the end of the day, it will change things. And it's not possible for these taxes to be sustainable. And leaders like Trump, as you know, come up and tell you one thing today, and the other day they come up with completely different statements. And we need to preserve our stability. So pricing is an issue. And from now on, even if demand will not be high, even if we won't be able to see increasing demands, prices will not go down after a certain threshold. As you know, as the case is in the Turkish market, prices have increased significantly. Like $60 to $70 in Turkey and 70 to 80 euros in Europe. So even if we don't have demand, these price thresholds will be preserved. And after the religious holidays in Turkey, due to all these obscurities, we have had a certain level of sales pressure. on people. There might be some decreases like $10 or $20, but with these costs, and in this country we have not been faced with a minimum wage of higher than $600. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that the minimum wage is high, but then it was at around $400 to $450, but now it's at around $600. Of course, this has a lot to do with foreign currency, and we have a potential risk in the foreign exchange as well. In a couple of hours, of course, our chairman of the central bank has explained it very aptly. But I have seen this increase from 36% to 42%, and that happened in a couple of seconds only. So steel prices around the world will be positioned a bit higher. Together with CBAM, some costs will be assumed by players all around the world. And I think we will be complaining about profitability for some time only. Thank you. We are the service industry and we offer our services. Kaan Bey, what are your expectations? So we used to talk about the new normal after the pandemic, and then we had the Russian and Ukraine war, and the steel industry has found itself some room for growth and development. So we should not expect for large volume transactions because we are confronted with a shrinkage in Europe and the global dynamics. But then we will continue to earn profits out of this business. We have this steel cycle. So this is in every 7 years. You start and you win, and then you start losing, and then you start winning again. And I personally think that this is kind of cyclical movement, and I hope that towards the end of the year the cycle will be reset and everyone will be happy again. Mehmet Ali Bey. And I would like to thank our participants for staying here and listening to us, and I wish all the best for you for 2025. So my best wishes apply to those who haven't listened as well, of course.
Last words from you.
Yeah, I was actually pretty hopeful. I mean, let's say end of last year and beginning of this year, we saw that also to the automotive, to the tiers, etc. There were a lot of let's say low-priced offers in the market, and we were actually hoping to see them disappear. And also, if you see actually the targets of the European mills, which were basically then going up to a certain level, which is reflecting that actually the stocks, or let's say the remaining stocks, have actually lowered. So that means that there will be a certain upwards price stability. But then they left Trump out of the cage, and this is of course creating a new uncertainty into the market, because if you don't know what he is actually going to stop with tariffs or to what extent, and that means that perhaps quantities, that means shares that were planned for a certain industry will finally not materialize, the uncertainty remains. And that's why for the moment, and basically also in this, at this moment where he is either in negotiations with the world, playing poker, and has, for hopefully, I mean really inshallah, that he has not actually made his final points, that he is willing also to negotiate. But until that time, the pricing situation remains volatile. If he is finally going to decide, and if, let's say, we have a certainty about the flows. That means the material flows, and it is reliable. There's a certain continuity. Then I see a much better picture, also based by the political support that we see at the moment.
Wahrscheinlich.
Wahrscheinlich.
Thank you very much. Çok teşekkür ediyorum.
Well, thank you. We have exceeded our time dramatically, so let's finish with Mehmet Ali's wish. Let God support us and protect us all.